It's fast. All right, that's fine. Right, good morning, everybody. I'm going to call the Commission on Ethics meeting to order. First, we'll do roll call. Chair Wallen here. Vice Chair Towler.
Here.
Commissioner Dufferin.
Here.
Commissioner Greenwald. Here. Commissioner Lowry. Here. Commissioner Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Yan.
Here.
Commissioner Moran. Please mark him absent. For staff, we have Executive Director Armstrong.
Here.
Associate Counsel Bassett. Here. Investigator Terry.
Here.
Senior Legal Researcher Path.
Here.
Executive Assistant Pedroza.
Here.
Deputy Attorney General St. Jules. Here. And Conflict Commission Counsel Klump.
Here.
All right, at this time, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, next item, item 2, public comment. Executive Director Armstrong, has the commission received any public comment by email to be read into the record?
We have not.
All right. Are there any members of the public present who are attending in person or virtually who want to provide public comment?
There are not.
Okay. And none on Zoom that want to comment? Next item, item 3, approval of the July 25th, 2023 commission minutes. Commissioner Dufferin did not attend the July 25th meeting and may not participate in the approval of the minutes. All other commissioners may participate. I'd like to call the item and ask if there are any additions or corrections to the minutes as read. Okay. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as read.
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, item 4, discussion and approval of a written opinion concerning consolidated ethics complaint case numbers 21-062C and 21-082C regarding Joseph Lombardo, Sheriff of Clark County, State of Nevada. I would like to note that Commissioners Dufferin and Grunwald served on the review panel for this case and are therefore precluded from participating in this agenda item pursuant to NRS 281A.2204. Are there any abstentions or disclosures? Commissioner Olson.
Yes.
You wish to read your disclosure, please?
I do not have it in front of me. Can I say that this disclosure I gave at the time of the hearing stands the same?
Nope, that will not do it.
Okay, well, I can
You
wing
have
it.
something written that
if
you
you'd
can
like.
send in. Okay. Our conflict counsel will send you what you need to say. Actually, Commissioner Olson, if you read the minutes, your disclosure's in there.
Hold on. Okay, Madam Chair, with your approval, I'll go ahead and read it.
Please do.
Okay, as stated in the minutes, that I had made a disclosure that I'm a former co-worker of Sheriff Lombardo, having worked at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department at the same time before he was sheriff. I also disclosed that Lombardo appointed me as a commissioner on the ethics with a term starting July 23. I shared that one second here, these minutes are not what I read. There we go. My relationship with Lombardo is not within the definition of commitment of a private capacity or interest of person, does not require disclosure. Madam Chair, this is not what I read.
Okay, well, it's put into minutes form of what you said. All right, Wayne, are you finding it to send it to him?
I've emailed it to you, several of your email accounts, Commissioner Olson.
Okay. Okay, Madam Chair, with your permission.
Please proceed.
Okay, I am making a disclosure in consolidated case number 21-0626 and 21-082C. I'm a former co-worker of former Sheriff Joe Lombardo, having worked at Metro during the same time period. Although I was aware of who Joe Lombardo was, we never worked together. I retired from Metro in 2007. I would categorize our current relationship as former co-worker and professional acquaintances. Additionally, Governor Lombardo appointed me to sit as a commissioner on the Nevada Commission on Ethics with a term starting July 1, 23 to fill the position, the vacancy caused by expiration of the term of Commissioner Oscarson. My understanding is that my appointment was made pursuant to statute and the ordinary course. Finally, I'm registered lobbyist at the, I was a registered lobbyist at the 2023 legislative session of the Nevada legislature. Since conclusion of the legislature, I have not communicated directly with a state legislator or a member of the local government body on anyone's behalf. I have no future plans to do so. Under NRS 281A.065, my relationship with Governor Lombardo is not one within the definitions of commitment in a private capacity to the interests of another person. Consequently, the relationship does not require disclosure or abstention under the ethics law pursuant to NRS 281A.420. Additionally, nothing in the judicial canon 2.11 of the Code of Judicial Conduct requires disclosure or abstention pursuant to the manner of my appointment. In fact, Nevada law favors the right of a public office, favors the right of a public officers to perform the duties for which the public office was appointed and to vote otherwise act upon matters. However, in my capacity as commissioner, I serve in a quasi judicial role and desire to alleviate any concerns of impartiality. Consequently, I am disclosing to the extent of these relationships. Further, I have reviewed judicial canon 2.11 of the Code of Judicial Ethics, Code of Judicial Conduct, which lists the type of relationships and events that require disqualifications, and have confirmed that the presented circumstances do not require disqualification. Moreover, I believe I'll be a fair and impartial in considering this matter and have no actual perceived bias. Having been a former co-worker of now Governor Lombardo or my appointment with the Commission on Ethics, Lombardo will not materially affect my independence of judgment or that of a reasonable person in my situation. Therefore, I will be participating and voting in this matter.
All right. Thank you very much, Commissioner Olson. I want to note proper notice has been provided and waivers have been received for ethics case numbers 21-062C and 21-082C Lombardo. Further, the members of the review panel, Commissioners Dufferin and Grunwald, may not participate in the consideration of this matter pursuant to NRS 281A.2204. All other commissioners may participate and vote on this matter. At this time, I want to open it up to my fellow commissioners. If they have any comments or changes to the written opinion as presented. And add any direction to any change, add any other direction at this time. Has Markovich received a copy of that? Okay. Right, any comments?
Madam Chair, I just want to clarify that the minutes are a summary of what I read under the disclosure, not word for word.
Right, but duly noted. So any comments, questions on this order?
Chair Wallen,
Yes, Commissioner Yen.
so are we discussing the new version with the red lines?
The new version with the red lines, and if you want, I don't know if the proper procedure is we read all those changes in or just
Yes,
read the changes? Okay, Commissioner Yin, do you want to proceed and read the changes from the document in?
Chair Wallen, this is Samuel Merkovich. I'm one of the attorneys for Governor Lombardo. I don't mean to interrupt. I do want to just make it clear for the purposes of the meeting that our office hasn't received a copy of any of the different versions of this written order.
Oh, okay,
And just for the record, Mr. Merkovich, neither has
they don't have.
the executive director or myself. We have also not seen any of the changes.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Associate Counsel Bassett for the record.
correct. And that's why they'll be read into the record.
But send him a copy. Did he get a copy of it? Yeah, no, okay. He should, yeah, email him a copy of it just so he has.
He has a copy of the original and
I know,
the
but-
changes will be read.
Okay, but it might be easier just to send him a copy. Would you think that would be proper?
And let's read him in and see if he has any questions.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Yen, do you mind doing that?
No, I'm happy to do that. Okay, so page 1 of the proposed opinion, second paragraph, the change was made. Second paragraph, on or about September 21st, 2021, the commission served Lombardo via certified mail and notice of complaint and investigation advising him of the allegations in case number 21-062C, period. Third paragraph, that same sentence was then removed, as well as the sentence that starts with on or about January 14th. That was removed. Also on the first page, fourth paragraph, the last sentence added to the fourth paragraph, on or about January 14th, 2022, Lombardo, by and through his attorneys Campbell and Williams, submitted a response to the allegations. Campbell was also is going to be correctly spelled with 2 L's. Moving to page 2, last paragraph, first sentence, in a motion to continue filed by Lombardo filed on April 27, 2023, the second filed has been removed. Moving to page 4, section 3, subsection A, issues, the first sentence of that paragraph, the issues considered by the commissioner, ER from commissioner is removed so that it reads commission. Moving to page 7, in citing for subsection 6, remedies for violations of ethics law, and citing NRS 281A.785 provides in pertinent part, what was added is subsections A and B to section 2. So that what that is including the language for what an admonishment is and what a reprimand is. Moving to page 13 of the opinion. The civil penalty was broken out with various amounts, but they have been revised for $2,000 for the first violation, $5,000 for the second violation, and $12,500 for the third violation. That has been revised. And on the last page, the last conclusion of law number 8, what has been removed was a censure is warranted pursuant to statute because there's evidence that the willful violations involve bad faith, malicious intent, or the words bad faith, malicious intent, or have been removed from the conclusion of law. And with those changes, I would move to approve the draft opinion and allow conflict counsel Wayne to formalize the opinion.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that motion.
Right?
Do you want to include language that final approval will be in conjunction with the chair?
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, it
Yes.
should be in conjunction with the chair too.
I will revise my motion to include that language. Thank you, Vice Chair Towler.
Right. Any comments, questions, all right? Before we vote on this, I want to ask Mr. Merkovich if you want to comment on the proposed opinion and the revisions that we have made.
Thank you, Chair Wallen. As I mentioned moments ago, I've not seen any of the drafts, and I've only just heard the changes that were read into the record by Commissioner Yen. As such, we have no comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that being said, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh,
Nay.
okay.
Nay.
One nay, Commissioner Olson. Okay. All right, next item. This is item 5. Discussion and determination on motion for reconsideration of opinion in case number 22-051C regarding Joseph Rodriguez, trustee, Washoe County School District, Lieutenant State Fire Marshal, State of Nevada. Since Vice Chair Toller and myself served on the review panel for this case, we are precluded from participating in this agenda item pursuant to NRS 281A.2204. I am going to ask Commissioner Dufferin to be the presiding officer for this agenda item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we begin, do we have any disclosures or abstentions on this item?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Dufferin. This is Commissioner Yen. I do have a disclosure and abstention. I am a partner with the law firm of McDonald Crono, of which Mr. Rodriguez is a client. Therefore, pursuant to NRS 281A.065 subsections 4 and 5, I have a commitment in a private capacity to my law firm and the client based on the law firm's continuing business relationship with that client. Consequently, the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation could be materially affected in voting upon items relating to Mr. Rodriguez. To avoid conflicts of interest and any appearance of impropriety, including complying with the ethics law and judicial canons applicable to the commission, I am disclosing this relationship and will abstain from participation in this matter. I've consulted with Deputy Attorney General St. Jules, and she agrees with my disclosure and abstention is required in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Yan. Proper notice has been provided and waivers have been received for ethics case number 22-051C. Further, the members of the review panel, Chair Wallen and Vice Chair Towler, may not participate in the consideration of this matter pursuant to NRS 281A.220 subsection 4. Commissioner Yan has just abstained and may not participate in the consideration of this matter. All other commissioners may participate and vote on this matter. The parties have agreed that they will not present oral argument on Mr. Rodriguez's motion for reconsideration. The commission will therefore decide the motion for reconsideration on the parties' papers. I note that on August 17th, 2023, Trustee Rodriguez submitted a supplement to his motion for reconsideration. And in this supplement, Trustee Rodriguez offers as an additional basis for reconsideration the commission's recent oral decision in consolidated cases numbers 21-062C and 21-082C concerning Governor Lombardo. In that case, no violation of NRS 281A.400 subsection 2 was found, and Trustee Rodriguez asserts that there is no substantive basis to deem the conduct of Trustee Rodriguez as violative of NRS 281A.400 subsection 2, but the similar conduct of Governor Lombardo as not of violative of NRS 281A.400 subsection 2. So having said all that, I'm ready to have any discussion. If any commissioners have any questions or concerns or comments, I'm ready to open this hearing up for that. Commissioner Lowry.
Thank you. The one part of Mr. Rodriguez's motion to reconsider that I am willing to take up. The only issue I'm willing to take up that I think has some merit is the issue of consistency between the subsequent Lombardo decision and his case based on some similarities. I will say that I voted that 281A.400 sub 2 applied in the Rodriguez case, and it was also my belief that subsection 2 applied in the Lombardo case. Although my ultimate vote, I did not vote for that. So I can understand where the issue of consistency becomes concerning. I would ultimately hope that if there are subsequent appeals in either case, that through appeal or cross appeal, that maybe this issue will be settled. And we will be given some direction by the courts on subsection 2. Because I think there are arguments on both sides as to why it applies or may not apply. That being said, my motion would be that Mr. Rodriguez's case conclude with 2 willful counts of 281A.400 subsection 7 with the same fine allotted. There was a great deal of consideration given to Mr. Rodriguez and mitigating circumstances were considered. And I believe the fine was well below what was recommended originally. So it would not be my position to reduce the fine. I think the total fine should be $1,000, which would be $500 a count. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Lowry. Any other commissioners have comments or concerns? We have a proposed motion, but I'm still want to hear more comments if we have any. Commissioner Grunwald.
I would support Commissioner Lowry's motion, and therefore I'll second that motion.
I apologize, just for the clarity of the record, I was hoping we could also get the language about directing counsel for the commission to prepare a reconsidered written and final opinion consistent with the requirements of NRS 281A.765, NAC 281A.473, and NRS 233B.125.
That's what I said.
I apologize.
Thank you, counsel. Yes, I would add that.
I think you said that, but not out loud. So thank you, Commissioner Lowry.
Thank you.
Yeah, so before I have a second, I don't want to call for the vote quite yet. I have a couple comments. So when we heard this case, Governor Lombardo's case was outstanding and we hadn't heard yet about how that was going to be settled. At the time we heard this case, we did have quite a bit of discussion on willful, non-willful, quite a bit of discussion about 281A.400 subsection 2, whether or not it applied as a violation in this case, as well as 281A.400 subsection 7. So, to be consistent is always my goal as one commissioner and how we handle these cases. The other issue was if there were going to be 4 willful violations, some other ramifications would occur after the fact, which was never my intention. So I'm comfortable with the motion. I also agree with Commissioner Lowry and Commissioner Grunwald that the $1,000 fine should stand. Those are my comments. Any other comments? Commissioner Olson, do you have any comments, questions?
No comments, no questions.
All right, so there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. So that would be, just to repeat for the record, we have $1,000 fine that is in place, and we have 2 violations, I believe. 2 willful violations of NRS 281A 400 subsection 7. And the earlier violations from the earlier meeting of NRS 281A 400 subsection 2 no longer are in place. I think that concludes that matter. And Chair Wallen, you're up.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Dufferin. Next item, item 6, discussion and determination on a proposed stipulated deferral agreement concerning ethics complaint case number 23-005C regarding Larry Grant, member, Mineral County Board of Commissioners, State of Nevada. Are there any disclosures or abstentions on this matter?
Yes, Commissioner Grunwald has a disclosure.
Okay, hold on. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Pursuant to NAC 281A.195, I am disclosing that I participated in a settlement conference with Mr. Grant, Executive Director Armstrong, Associate Counsel Bassett, and Deputy Attorney General St. Jules. I discussed the matter currently pending before the commission together with all parties and with the parties separately.
Okay, thank you. Pursuant to NAC 281A.195.2, when a commissioner discloses an ex parte communication, the commission may require the commissioner to abstain from participating with the commission in any hearing or determination to be made by the commission concerning the matter that was the subject of the ex parte communication. I note that Commissioner Grunwald was a member of the review panel for this matter and is already precluded from participating in further proceedings of the commission relating to this matter pursuant to NRS 281A.2204. A decision on whether she must abstain is therefore moot. Vice Chair Towler also served on the review panel and may not participate in the consideration of this matter pursuant to NRS 281A.2204. All other commissioners may participate. At this time, I would like to ask the parties to identify themselves for the record.
Elizabeth Bassett, Associate Counsel, Counsel for the Executive Director.
Okay, Mr. Grant.
Good morning, Larry Grant, Mineral County Commissioner.
Thank you. Ms. Bassett, would you please present an overview of the proposed stipulated agreement?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, I'm Elizabeth Bassett, Associate Counsel for the Commission. The complaint in case number 23-005C alleged that Larry Grant, who is the former Director of Hawthorne Utilities and the current County Commissioner for Mineral County, violated various provisions of the ethics law when he used county resources to renew licensing required for his position with Hawthorne Utilities when he already knew he was retiring, and provided his information for inclusion on a list of licensed inspectors distributed to Hawthorne's customers prior to his official retirement. The commission directed the executive director to investigate these claims. Following that investigation, a review panel referred some of the alleged violations, particularly NRS 281A 400 subsections 2, 7, and 10, to the full commission. The parties participated in a settlement conference presided over by Commissioner Grunwald, assisted by Deputy Attorney General St. Jules, and as a result entered into the proposed stipulated deferral agreement before you today. The terms of that agreement are as follows. The agreement will be in effect for a period of 2 years from the date of approval, during which Mr. Grant must comply with all requirements of the ethics law without being subject of another violation of the ethics law for which a review panel determines there's just and sufficient cause for the commission to determine Mr. Grant violated any ethics law, or else the agreement will be vacated and further proceedings in this matter will be conducted. Mr. Grant will receive ethics training as determined by the executive director within 60 days of the approval of the agreement. The commission will issue a letter of caution to Mr. Grant detailing the application of the ethics law to his circumstances. The executive director and I believe, and Commissioner Grunwald, and I believe that the terms of this agreement are appropriate because Mr. Grant has not previously been the subject of an ethics complaint. Mr. Grant cooperated in the investigation and the resolution of this ethics complaint, and he participated in the settlement negotiations that we had. The licensing that Mr. Grant obtained at county expense was a required term of his employment with Hawthorne Utilities. And he had been delayed in obtaining that licensing close to the end of his retirement because he had caught COVID-19 and had been delayed in obtaining the licensing and the training. And Mr. Grant submitted the paperwork to be included on the list of licensed businesses to provide inspections to Hawthorne's customers. He submitted that paperwork on non-work hours. He was not aware that that information would be provided to customers prior to the date of his retirement, and he did not conduct any inspections prior to the date of his retirement. Given the information obtained in the investigation of this matter, and mitigating factors discussed, the executive director and I believe the terms of this stipulated deferral agreement are appropriate. We'd like to thank Mr. Grant for his cooperation in the investigation and the resolution of this matter, as well as Commissioner Grunwald and Deputy Attorney St. Jules for their assistance in the settlement of this matter. And I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Grant, do you have anything that you would like to add?
I would like, just for the record, to make it very clear, this has nothing to do with my county commission seat. This was prior to me taking my seat as county commissioner. So I would like to thank everybody that was involved in the investigation and the settlement conference. Everybody was very gracious. Everybody was very kind. And everybody was very reasonable. So I thank everybody involved. That's all I've got.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Grant, and we appreciate your cooperation and with our staff, and I'm glad that we're coming to a good conclusion in this. So at this time, I will ask my fellow commissioners if they have any questions. Seeing,
Madam Chair, I don't have any questions, but I would want to, on the record, thank Commissioner Grunwald for facilitating or participating in the settlement conference. I've done a number of those and they are not always that much fun. But they're necessary and it's always good when a commissioner can get involved and help settle these. I also wanted to thank Mr. Grant for participating and also for cooperating with the commission. I thank you, sir. And if you're okay, Madam Chair, I would make a motion.
please do.
I move to accept the terms of the stipulated deferral agreement, including the proposed confidential letter of caution as presented by the parties in case number 23005C. Direct counsel for the commission to finalize the documents in appropriate form. Further move that the chair is delegated authority to approve and direct finalization of the dismissal of the complaint in this case, if the executive director confirms to the chair that Grant has complied with the terms and conditions of the stipulated deferral agreement.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Grant. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item, item 7, discussion and determination on a proposed stipulated deferral agreement concerning ethics complaint case number 23-054C regarding Raymond Tulloch, trustee, Incline Village General Improvement District, State of Nevada. I want to note proper notice has been provided and waivers have been received in ethics case number 23-054C. Tulloch, Mr. Tulloch waived the requirement for review of this matter by a review panel, and all commissioners may participate in consideration of this agenda item.
Chair Wallen?
Yes, Commissioner Yin.
Since the last time I just spoke with Deputy Attorney General St. Jules, I did find out that some members of my firm in the Reno office are involved with this project in various ways, and I have not received sufficient information as to what that involvement is. And because of that, I think it would be safer for me to disclose and abstain so that there's no appearance of impropriety for my participation on this matter.
Thank you.
So with that, I will state that I'm a partner with the law firm of McDonald Crono, of which my firm is involved in some capacity with the Incline Village District Improvement Project. And therefore pursuant to NRS 281A.065 subsections 4 and 5, I have a commitment in a private capacity to my law firm and the Incline Village property and various subsections of that property that my firm may be involved with. And based on the law firm's continuing business relationship with that client. Consequently, the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation could be materially affected in voting upon items relating to Incline Village or any trustees or any persons involved with the Incline Village, and to avoid conflicts of interest and any appearance of impropriety, including complying with the ethics law and judicial canons applicable to the commission. I am disclosing this relationship and will abstain from participation in this matter. I have consulted with Deputy Attorney General St. Jules with different information and have now given her new information, but I believe she would agree with my disclosure and abstention on this matter.
I do. Thank you, Commissioner Yan.
Thank you, Commissioner Yen. Any other disclosures, abstentions? All right, at this time, I will ask the parties to please introduce yourselves and identify your clients.
Morning, I'm Elizabeth Bassett, Associate Counsel and Attorney for the Executive Director.
Good morning, Catherine Parks on behalf of Trustee Tulloch.
Thank you, Ms. Parks. This time, Associate Counsel Bassett, please give us your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The complaint in case number 23-054C alleged that Raymond Tulloch, trustee of the Incline Village General Improvement District, violated NRS 281A-420.420 subsections 1 and 3 when he failed to make a proper disclosure regarding his employment at Mount Rose Ski Resort and Palisades Ski Resort during a board meeting agenda item discussing Diamond Peak Ski Resort, which is owned and operated by IVGED. The commission directed the executive director to investigate these claims. Following that investigation, but before presenting the matter to a review panel or proceeding to a hearing before the commission, the parties reached the proposed stipulated deferral agreement that's before you today. The terms of the agreement are as follows. The deferral agreement will be in effect for a period of 2 years from the date of approval, during which Mr. Tulloch must comply with requirements of the ethics law without being the subject of another violation for which a review panel finds there's just and sufficient cause for the commission to determine Mr. Tulloch violated the ethics law. Mr. Tulloch shall receive ethics training as determined by the executive director within 60 days. And the commission will admonish Mr. Tulloch and caution him to properly disclose his private interests when performing his public duties as a trustee for IVGED. The executive director and I believe that the terms of this agreement are appropriate because Mr. Tulloch has not previously been the subject of an ethics complaint. Mr. Tulloch cooperated in the investigation and resolution of this ethics complaint and agreed to resolve the alleged violation without requiring a review panel determination, which saved a lot of time and resources for the commission. Mr. Tulloch did not obtain any financial gain as a result of his alleged violation. And I'd like to note Mr. Tulloch was a brand new trustee at the time that this occurred, and it's an unusual situation where a board would have authority over something like a ski resort. So it's a bit of an unusual disclosure situation. Given the information obtained in the investigation of this matter and the mitigating factors discussed, the executive director and I believe the terms of the stipulated deferral agreement are appropriate. We'd like to thank Mr. Tulloch as well as his attorney, Ms. Parks, for their cooperation in the investigation and resolution of this matter. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, Ms. Parks, do you have any additional things you would like to add?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Thank you. I would simply note that, as usual, Commission Counsel and the Executive Director have shown their professionalism during the course of this matter, and we appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Fellow commissioners, questions, comments? Yes, Commissioner Lowry.
The statement of relevant facts in the agreement does not reference abstention. There's the discussion of reporting or, but it doesn't talk about abstention. Is there a reason that the agreement doesn't go into whether or not he needs to abstain in the future?
From looking at it, we didn't think he would need to abstain in the future. The nexus between what Mr. Tulloch's job is at Mount Rose and Palisades is that he teaches, so he's like the head of the speed school at Mount Rose and Palisades. These are kind of he's sort of an older retired gentleman, and so he does like speed school. And the things they're talking about at Diamond Peak are things like, should we put pictures on the passes? So the nexus between them aren't the type of thing that when we looked at them, it looked like he would need to abstain. They didn't rise to that level. Just that he would need to disclose that I am in fact, making like $2,500 a year over here at Mount Rose and Palisades. Like I am employed, but they didn't rise to the level where we thought he would actually need to abstain from a vote.
This is Executive Director Armstrong. When I go and train on disclosure and abstention, the key thing to remember is once you disclose, that opens the door for the individual to lean on what is found in the ethics law as a presumption of participation. And so as long as he's making a disclosure, he can then look at the presumption of participation, and the matters in this case, we thought had he disclosed, he probably would not have had to abstain, but it'll be very fact specific. Something where, let's say that if Gid were to vote to completely shut down Diamond Peak, that takes out a competitor of his two employers, right? So that probably would be something he would want to abstain on. But if it's something like the design of the ski passes, or are we going to change the ski lift from a 3-seater to a 4-seater, or he can probably rely on the presumption of participation. He'll just need to be checking with his counsel on that as each matter shows up.
Hey, thank you so much. That really covers my question. Thank you.
That answered mine. Any other questions? Right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the stipulated agreement.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Commissioner Lowry. I move to accept the terms of the stipulated deferral agreement as presented by the parties in case number 23-054C, Tulloch, and direct counsel for the commission to finalize the agreement in appropriate form. I further move that the chair is delegated authority to approve and direct finalization of the dismissal of the complaint. In this case, if the executive director confirms to the chair that Tulloch has complied with the terms and conditions of the stipulated deferral agreement.
I second the motion.
Okay, with that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you,
And
everyone.
Ms. Parks, I just want to say thank you as always for working so well with our staff. We do appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you all again. Bye-bye.
Bye. Next item, item 8, discussion and determination on a proposed stipulated deferral agreement concerning ethics complaint case number 23-057C regarding Eric Blondheim, Under Sheriff Pershing County, State of Nevada. I want to note proper notice has been provided and waivers have been received in ethics case number 23-057C Blondheim. Further, the members of the review panel, Vice Chair Toller, and Commissioners Grunwald and Lowry may not participate in the consideration of this proposed stipulation pursuant to NRS 281A.2204. All other commissioners may participate and vote on this matter. I'd like to ask the parties to identify themselves and their clients for the record.
I'm Elizabeth Bassett, Associate Counsel for the Executive Director.
Mr. Blondheim?
Yes, hello all. This is Under Sheriff Eric Blondheim for Pershing County Sheriff's Office.
All right, thank you. Associate Counsel Bassett, will you please proceed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The complaint in case number 23-057C alleged that Eric Blondheim, Under Sheriff of Pershing County, violated NRS 281A 400 subsection 7 and NRS 281A 520 when he used the county-funded app to send a notification regarding a campaign rally for U.S. Senate candidate Adam Laxalt in violation of county policy. The commission directed the executive director to investigate these claims. Following a referral by the review panel and in lieu of a hearing before the commission, the parties reached the proposed stipulated deferral agreement before you today. The terms of the agreement are as follows. The agreement will be in effect for a period of 2 years from the date of approval, during which Mr. Blondheim must comply with all requirements of the ethics law without being subject of another violation for which a review panel determines there's just a sufficient cause to determine Mr. Blondheim violated any ethics law. Mr. Blondheim will receive ethics training as determined by the executive director within 60 days. And the commission will admonish Mr. Blondheim and caution him to properly separate government expenses and campaign support. The executive director and I believe that the terms of this agreement are appropriate because Mr. Blondheim has not previously been the subject of an ethics complaint. Mr. Blondheim cooperated in the investigation and the resolution of this ethics complaint. Mr. Blondheim did not obtain any financial gain as a result of his alleged violation. Given the information obtained in the investigation of this matter and the mitigating factors discussed, the executive director and I believe the terms of this agreement are appropriate. We'd like to thank Under Sheriff Blondheim for his cooperation in this investigation and his help in the prompt resolution of this matter. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Blondheim, do you have anything else to add? Comments?
Sorry about that. I had to unmute the phone. No, I don't have anything to add at this time. The only thing that I would object to is at the conclusion of the findings of everything is that my boss, Sheriff Allen, was mentioned in the report, and he had nothing to do with what I pushed out on that.
Can you speak a little louder? We can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm talking over telephone. But the only thing I would have to add is I appreciate everybody's cooperation and everything. And the only thing I would like to object to is, if it's possible, is at the conclusion of the report is that Sheriff Allen was mentioned at the end of the report. I don't think he has anything to do with the findings of myself, as I was the one that pushed out that message.
Right, thank you. Comments from my fellow commissioners to go along with this or not?
Chair Wallen?
Yes.
I
Commissioner
do.
Yan.
I have a question as to why the determination, and I know you said because, he hasn't been subject to any other ethics complaints and he's participated. Why the determination was a deferral agreement and not a stipulated agreement to discuss a violation?
I think as Ms. Bassett indicated, Mr. Blondheim not only cooperated with his case, but also an additional case where he was very forthcoming about what had occurred. And I think for us, as we went through the investigation process and interviewed Mr. Blondheim, the foundation for this violation was just a general lack of awareness of the ethics law that probably comes from an agency perspective of thinking that, it's not necessarily all county policies apply to the sheriff's office. And there is in earnestness in his discussion of, had any other candidate asked them to do this, they would have, but no other candidate came to town. And so that was a consideration for us. In addition, although there was evidence that Blondheim's employer had endorsed the Senate candidate, there was no indication that he himself had an interest in the success of the Laxalt campaign. And so those were all mitigating factors in Mr. Blondheim's case for us, that the deferral agreement with education for himself in a small jurisdiction, which will likely lend itself to having others in his jurisdiction have more information about the ethics law, was more aligned with the aims of the commission than a violation itself.
So let me ask this question. So Adam Laxalt's campaign came to the sheriff's office and said, hey, can you let people know I'm coming?
Correct.
Wow. I struggle with this because it's not something you should do. It's government equipment. And I think, to me, a common sense thing is you don't use government equipment for political purposes.
I have another
Yeah, Commissioner Yan.
So the message that was pushed out, and this is just going to what you said, Executive Director Armstrong. Pershing County residents come down to the courthouse park to support Republican Adam Laxalt for U.S. Senate and help defend the great state of Nevada. So if Catherine Cortez Masto, the opposite running person, had come, would the message have also said and help defend the great state of Nevada? I don't find that message to be very neutral. So I think it cuts against the statement that the same message would have been sent had another candidate come. So that's where I'm struggling, because we do have to be very careful, using government equipment to have, we've had this discussion just in the Lamardo with the appearance of impropriety.
Yeah, this is Executive Director Armstrong. I think for me, that statement could be alarming if it was Mr. Blondheim expressing his opinion that electing Adam Laxalt would defend Nevada and America, but it was that was the campaign slogan of the Laxalt campaign. And so I think if Catherine Cortez Masto had a similar campaign slogan and asked them to, like, here's the wording to announce the event, you would have done the same. So that wording is not necessarily, even though it's coming through the app of the sheriff's office, it was not Blondheim indicating he had an interest or that that's what he thought the Laxalt campaign was doing. It was the tagline provided by the campaign.
I still struggle.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if Commissioner Yan doesn't have any more follow-up questions, I had a question for Under Sheriff Blondheim.
Please go ahead, Commissioner Dufferin. I'm thinking.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to hear directly from the undersheriff if he gets it, if he gets what he did wrong, and if in the future he will not use government property in the same vein or any other vein to promote political campaigns from one side or another, from one party or another. So if you could just give me some comfort that you understand exactly what the issue is, I would appreciate it, Undersheriff.
Yes, I appreciate that question, sir, and I apologize. I don't recognize everybody and recognize their names and voices, but I've learned a lot from this. I mean, I've never, in my position or throughout my career, whether it's been in the military or in public office now, being an administrator, have I ever mixed public affiliations with my duties. I just pushed out a message to the community because that was our only outlet to the Lovelock Society. Like, hey, there's somebody coming to town. There had been nobody coming to town. I pushed it out. When this originally started, it started with Sheriff Allen, and then it came to me because I was the one that pushed it out. I had to take a step back from what I was doing, and yes, I've learned a lot from it, and I will never push out any other public messages with, trying to think of the word I'm looking for, but with political affiliations attached to it.
Okay, thank you. I was looking for the word political versus public.
Right.
Public safety stuff is great. Political stuff is what we're talking about. So It sounds to me like you get it. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, it is. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any more questions.
Okay, I think this is between Commissioner Olson. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Undersheriff, how long have you been in law enforcement?
I've been in law enforcement for 23 years now.
Okay. So in no time during your 23 years, it never came across your desk or information came to you about mixing political and government operations as being inappropriate?
No, it has. And I didn't think at the time that Mr. Laxalt was coming to town that me pushing out a message to the community was a foul, if you will, at the time. afterwards, like, hey, maybe it was the wrong message that I had pushed out, and I understand that, and I see that now.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, I would have to agree with what Ms. Yen has stated in her concerns. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. Commissioner Yin, still thinking?
No, I've made my decision.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I just struggle with this just because, I mean, I guess, so say Catherine Cortez Masto comes through now, she's not campaigning. And she said, hey, let people know, would you send a message out to let people know she's here? I mean, that's really not a way to get things out. I mean, this tool is supposed to be used for public safety purposes, not notifying the community of social events and things like that.
Madam Chair, can I ask
Yes.
a question? No, I said I would, which is typical of me. And I asked the executive director a question regarding the deferral agreement versus having this go to a settlement agreement. I guess my question is going to be, at the end of the day, what would be different? So if we decided not to accept this deferral agreement and then we went for a settlement agreement, I mean, I understand the legal differences, but at the end of the day, for Mr. Blondheim, what would be the difference in his world?
This is Executive Director Armstrong. If the deferral agreement were to be rejected, then we would proceed with discovery and a motion work. And then at the end of the day, there could be a violation for Mr. Blondheim, either non-willful, or willful, depending on what the commission were to decide at that contested hearing. If we were to come back and have a stipulated violation, there would be, I would imagine we would all again require training. The only difference would be that we would have a history of a violation for Mr. Blondheim. He may have to in future employment pursuits identify that he has an ethics violation on his record. That would be the main item. It would also not have for us a deferral period. And so if we were, let's say this is currently scheduled for hearings at the November meeting. So let's say that we get to January and the case is done, he completes his ethics training, the case is over, right? We don't have any supervision over him other than our regular supervision of public officers and employees. So there's no 2-year monitoring period with a violation.
Thank you for that. And just, it seems to me that this is kind of beating a dead horse. This gentleman came forward from, if I'm not mistaken, a complaint that was not filed against him, it was filed against his boss, the sheriff. And then after we whittled through all these discussions and spent hours and hours of time trying to figure out what exactly happened and who did it, Mr. Blondheim eventually had this complaint against him for this action. I know, in my opinion, we've spent plenty of time already on this case. And it is a very important case because it goes to a lot of the other cases that are similar and that we've been dealing with recently. But at the same time, I think based on what I've heard, he gets what he did. I also understand that the deferral agreement is going to, in my mind, solve this problem no different than it would if we did something different. So I'm actually comfortable with the deferral agreement after hearing from the sheriff directly, the under sheriff. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Yeah, just this Executive Director Armstrong again, to make sure that the record is clear. Initially, there was a complaint filed against the sheriff. Sheriff Allen, the review panel in that case determined that there was insufficient evidence to refer him to the commission for a decision. But we did issue a letter to him instructing him about this particular rule. And then we initiated a complaint for Mr. Blondheim. And so because of the procedural structure and the potential for a potential adjudicatory hearing in the future, I'll be cautious about what I say now, but there are many times where when you take a look at the requirements of the law and the facts you have, you may come to a negotiated agreement because getting across the finish line on particular violations or laws may not be there with the evidence lining up. So that was another reason for this agreement.
Commissioner Yin?
Yes, I would just like to say thank you to the executive director for all those explanations. And I always want to give deference and heavy consideration when parties come to an agreement. I think that's the best way that issues should be resolved. And so I really appreciate your statements and the work that you have done on this matter. And with that, then I would be ready to make a motion.
Please proceed.
So I would move to accept the terms of the stipulated deferral agreement as presented by the parties in case number 23-057C Blondheim, and direct counsel for the commission to finalize the agreement in appropriate form. I further move that the chair is delegated authority to approve and direct finalization of the dismissal of the complaint in this case if the executive director confirms to the chair that Blondheim has complied with the terms and conditions of the stipulated deferral agreement.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And I think after listening to Executive Director Armstrong's response, I was more comfortable with this because before I wasn't. And so I appreciate that. So thank you so much. And Mr. Under Sheriff Blondheim, thank you so much for your cooperation with our staff, and we really do appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe at Barney, ma'am.
Chair Wallen?
Yes, Commissioner Yen.
It's 11 o'clock and unfortunately I have to leave the meeting early.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for attending, and always appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Next item. Item 9. Are you guys okay right now? Keep going. Okay.
Just quick.
All right, item 9, consideration and approval of the fiscal year 2023 annual report presented by the executive director pursuant to NAC 281A.1802. I would like to ask the executive director for his presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Executive Director Armstrong. There is a draft, annual report in your packet. And so there are, I would request any feedback from it. The one area where I think I need the most feedback would be on page 13, the goals for fiscal year 2024. I would also note, and the chair pointed this out, and I'll fix it. The graph on 25, I need to adjust. We have some intermediate months in there that I got to clean up, and so that would be the only change in the one that I caught from the one that went out earlier this week. But just some feedback and confirmation of what the commission would like as their goals for fiscal year 2024. And then I would ask for a motion to approve it with permission for me to work with the chair to finalize the welcome letter and make any other final adjustments as we review and make changes.
All right, fellow commissioners, comments, goals.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Vice Chair Dufferin.
it's just, I'm a commissioner now.
Oh, Commissioner
Thank
Dufferin.
you.
It's habit.
I'm happy not to be vice chair. Thank you, Commissioner Towler, by the way. Anyway, so one thing that I think we should consider for the future is to take a really close look at our last bill, where we tried to, for the third time, unsuccessfully change the things that we wanted to change. So I would highly recommend that the staff come up with a different game plan, perhaps. I know a lot of what happened was out of our control, and but we spent many hours, the legislative subcommittee spent many hours trying to come up with something that would be amenable to all parties, and unfortunately we failed for the third time. So just for the future, I think if you could somehow come up with a different way to get our changes through the legislature without offending anyone and still accomplishing our goals. I think that would be good. I don't know how we would do that. Maybe another legislative. I hate having unnecessary meetings, but maybe down the road, you could recommend to a legislative subcommittee or the commission as a whole, a plan to make that happen. Other than the other things listed here are wonderful. I think those are all great goals. Thank you, Madam Chair.
There are commissioners that have goals for the commission.
I would like to say something.
Yes.
I was very impressed with this annual report. You use so many graphs and different ways to get across the numbers, different ways to get across what we do. And I thought I liked it very much. And I appreciate all the hard work that went into doing it.
Mr. Lowry.
I echo those comments. Nicely done. Really well done. I was trying to find the exact verbiage where I had a question, and it was in reference to training and education and then the issue of the PIO. Is the new PIO position going to also be engaged in the community training and education?
Yes, the PIO position and it's in the state system. You have to pick what type of employee, right? What classification of employee you want. And so when we had taken a look at it as we were building the budget last time, there was kind of a question. There's a training officer position in the state and there's a PIO position. Training officers are more for training an internal team. Like if you have a large agency training that team how to do their work. And so we landed on the PIO. The PIO will have more, like about more than half of their job will be that engagement out in the community. I imagine, I'm hopeful that we'll have enough demand that I will continue with my outreach. And so we can double the folks out in the field doing the in-person training. And then that person will also be managing our online training system. And so we have up to 3,000 slots a year for that particular system. And so we should be able to greatly increase that training and outreach. So yes, the PIO, even though it's PIO, you might think, well, that relates to the press. In reality, their real press related contact, I would imagine, is somewhere closer to 15 to 20% of what their workload will be. And the vast majority will be the education out to the public.
Thank you, because I think for some who understand the PIO position in the classic interface with the media situation, they might wonder why a commission of our size would have a PIO. And knowing that our obligation in terms of training statewide and the numbers of people that it is our goal to train and educate, that's really, and the platforms, the number of different platforms you want to have available to our constituents, that the PIO's work for us is really going to be in that arena.
And we'll have the ability, and you lots of paperwork on this briefly. So we have the ability, even though it's a position that is classified by the state as a PIO, we'll be able to call that person our education and outreach officer, so that when they're interacting, people get a good grasp of what that person.
And just for continuity's sake, will we interchangeably refer to them as PIO and education and outreach? Or are we going to call them both or one? Or
I think we just stick with the one, education, once we get that formal position in place.
Education and outreach?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that one of the other things that I would like to see, that increase of trained individuals, but also outreach to non-public employees, just so people have a better understanding of what we do and the good work that we're doing. I think that, once you get that person in there, you might have more time to do that. I think that's one thing. Get the ethics manual updated. And I would also like to see us look at our NACs and see if we can go and update those to do some of the things that we've been trying to do through legislation. I think that should be something that we should be doing in there, definitely. And another thing would be, I'm just trying to think here. think those are pretty much my main things there. And, you know, I guess we also need to do some outreach to legislators this year, not right before session, because we always wait and then we never can get in to see them. So I think we should definitely do outreach this year. You know, definitely do that. And I have to say, I love the annual report. It's easy to read, and like echoing my fellow commissioners' comments. All the graphs paints a picture, it tells a story, which is great. And my husband says, it's great, I don't have to put it into English, so then Kim can review it. I don't have to have his help anymore, so that's a good thing too. And
You made your poor husband read this thing.
not this one. The others he did. But no, and I appreciate it, because this is a document that is designed that, you know, we can hand it out, pass it out, give it to the press, give it to legislators and stuff. And I think once we get this report done, I would like to see, you know, press on, we have the annual report, and then tweet out highlights of certain things in it and stuff.
Yeah, I will say, I just will point out some of the graphs because I think it's helpful for the commission to get a good understanding of what we did last year. So on page 18 is where they start, and you'll see that we had less advisory opinions come in this fiscal year than the one before, which actually shocked me. I thought it would be higher, probably because Liz and I had to do them for half of this fiscal year, so we had a bigger awareness. But the other one that is a new graph is I took, because it surprised me so much, and you see we actually issued more advisory opinions this year than last, even though we received less. And it's because we had a higher acceptance rate of those advisory opinions. So in the past, we've had individuals withdraw their complaints after, you know, a discussion. And so we took on almost the same amount of advisory opinions as last year, even though there was a slight decrease. And then you'll see we on page 21 and figure 5, we had a slight increase in the number of complaints coming in. And then I think the one that really speaks to getting that backlog cleared and the timeliness of Ms. Bassett and Mr. Terry in getting investigations completed is on page 23, figure 8 shows you how many complaint cases we resolved, and that's regardless of the fiscal year they were filed. So we've increased 30 over the last 2 years. That won't be the same, I think, going forward, because when you take a look, and it's always interesting to flip between a fiscal year and a calendar year, but all the complaints that came in calendar year 2022, we had the investigations completed before July 1st, 2023. So no investigation took longer than, we got them all done, all those investigations, they were 2-panel before July 1st, so before the end of that fiscal year. And I think it's hard to come up with what's an appropriate measure of timeliness, but I think that's a good one going forward. There may come a time where we get a December 30th extremely complex case and that doesn't happen, but that should be the exception and not the rule, that we still have cases we're investigating, you know, more than 6 months out. So those were just some of the graphs I wanted to draw the attention to, because it reflects the hard work of everybody on the team. And I will say we had an accelerated time period to get this report done this year, because it has to be done by the second meeting, and we had a surprise meeting in July, and then a meeting this month, which was our deadline. And there's no way it would have been possible if Carrie didn't have such a good handle on the data. We kind of went through some interesting growing pains last year and cleaning data for the first time and making sure we had really good solid data, and those systems were all perfected by this year. So it was easy to crank out the data we needed for you this time, even on the shortened time schedule.
For the record, you were talking about Carrie Pedroza.
Yes.
Thank you. I just said Carrie, I want to make sure she gets due credit on the record.
Or sorry, executive assistant.
So back to one quick comment, if I may, Madam Chair. Every state agency, at least they used to when I worked full-time, had performance indicators. So those performance indicators are somewhat like goals that you have. So are any of those performance indicators that the commission has illustrated in any of these?
So that's a great question, and I can take a look at those specific ones. They are, I know for us, there's like the timeliness. Do you hit all your statutory deadlines, which we do? We just don't miss our statutory deadlines, right? Because we follow the law, and so those are always well done. And then the number of cases received and those types of things are on our indicators too. As we look forward to the budget building process, that's when you can change those performance measures. And so we may take a look at that next year to make sure they're aligned with what actually, because like one of them is like the number of public employees. Well, we have known that that's not anything to do with our performance, right? And so, but yeah, the timeliness is the big one, but the one piece that I think is not captured in those timeliness measurements is that speed of the investigation. Because if they waive the time, then that counts as timely. And those were some of our more stale cases when I came on board. They're just kind of hanging out there. So that'll be something we're cognizant of going forward is the official performance measures. It is, I'll just say it's a weird system in every agency I've been in because as part of the budget building process, you go through these performance indicators and they're in there, but they have no impact on your actual budget or what, nobody really looks at them. And so I think at one point they probably wanted to shift towards performance-based budgeting and kind of that concept, and it's never crossed that finish line, in part, I think, because of the nature of government. You have to fund the service, and the performance is interesting. So we can take a close look at that as we build the budget next time.
Yeah, I know that performance measures, when I became controller, they were a joke. They were a joke, like how much debt have we collected since we started collecting debt?
Right.
Not how old is it? But
There are jokes sometimes, but they aren't required, and I just wanted to see if they maybe we captured some of these in this report. So thanks for that.
Volume and timeliness are the two main themes in our performance.
well, I think we can start, what is our outreach, and our percentage of outreach are we doing it? Are we improving in our outreach instead of just, right now it's pretty small, but when we get the new education officer in, then I think that will change things. So, okay, all right, no other comments, and I just want to thank staff for
Madam Chair,
yes, Commissioner Olson.
I had that little hand up, but I guess that's not gonna work sometimes. I just wanted to say that I've read a lot of annual reports in my life. And this one was an easy read. But I do have one thought. It's on your page 24, figure 10. And maybe a little bit more of a breakdown of that blue area, which is other. Who are the, and my other question was, how come the counties are the lowest we're getting to?
That's a great question. I'll have to take a look at what that compared to last time. And the other, in the comments below, you'll see, and I can break it out and just list the two specific ones, is the Nevada Civil Government Attorneys Conference made up a huge amount last year. That's like over 200 attorneys that represent cities and counties and states. And so we get some of them that way. And then the other one, we have some of these weird districts, and the Southern Nevada Housing Authority is one where it's shared county city function. And that was the other big one. They had me down there for 5 or 6 sessions over a week-long period, and we trained hundreds of people. But I'll check on the county one to see what that looks like compared to the others. It's interesting when you take a look at, this has been an interesting and consistent data point. When you look at the incoming items on page 7, we have a lot of county complaints, but then we don't have a lot of counties asking for advisory opinions. And I don't know, that probably is also reflected in the requests for training, whether they do that internally. The other thing to note about the county training is those numbers include Clark County. And we're going to be changing it a little bit here coming forward, but Clark County does their own training on their own internal database. They look at our YouTube video is imported into their system, and that's how they do their training. We're gonna shift that a little bit. Very exciting stuff like we'll be able to report on probably at the next time, but I can take a look at those percentages and see why the counties have that low. number. My guess is it would be good to, I'll compare this against the actual raw number of employees in each particular category. But I would say well, at least the state folks are overrepresented because, well, maybe they're not in this one. I'll take a good look at that and get you some information, Commissioner.
It's not a big concern. I was just curious more than anything.
Yeah,
It is a well-done report. I do like it.
Yeah, we do have active engagement with the Nevada Association of Counties and the League of Cities. Trying to figure out, who's at the League of Cities right now, but I regularly ping them and say, hey, let your members know we're available for training. So I'll get you some more comparison data on that. But thank you for the comments on the report.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023 annual report as presented by the executive director with the comments that we've made and with him to work in conjunction with me, the chair, to finalize the report.
I'll make
Commissioner
that
Grimald,
motion.
I so move.
Okay. You want a second?
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Next item. Agency status report. All right, at this time, I would like Executive Director Armstrong to give us his presentation.
This is Executive Director Armstrong. Under agenda item 10, you'll see a brief agency status report. We talked a little bit about education and outreach. We've had about 10 to 15 testers on our Nevada Ethics Online and gotten some feedback. In September, we'll have some time for Ms. Pedroza and I to work with the Tahuti folks to get all the little kinks worked out, but that feedback has been good in terms of it's easy to navigate and good content. So that is great. We talked about the number of people trained. In terms of fall training scheduled so far, the Public Relations Society of America has asked for training at their September meeting. I guess September is their ethics month, PR Professional Ethics Month. And so they're going to have me speak at their lunch. And then the International Code of Compliance Organization, I'll train the day after our October meeting down in Las Vegas. I trained them last year, and that is actually an organization of building inspectors and other code inspectors. And so some of them are private and some of them are public, but it's one of those positions where if they are putting their personal interests above the interests of their job, it could be life or death. And so it's good to present to that group and provide them that perspective. There's usually about 100 or so folks at that one. So that will be a good one. We've been promoting that we have training slots available. I'm hoping to get another couple agencies plugged in during that week. We have the meeting in Las Vegas since I'll be down there already. And so we continue to work on that. And as I stated, we have outreach to NACO and the League of Cities to let them know that the members know we provide training. In terms of the budget update, we did the final closing out or the final stages of closing out last year. We have a large reversion in category 1 because of the vacancies. One of the things that was nice about that, not nice about it, was tough to be shorthanded, but we don't have to go to IFC and ask for funding to do the buyouts, or not the buyouts, but the payouts of the final ones, because the vacancies were long enough. We had sufficient authority in our budget, so that was helpful. In terms of the implementation, the public information officer, our education outreach officer, it turns out it was approved as a classified position, so it's a little bit different from a recruiting process for that.
Was it a mistake or did it?
I think it was a mistake, but you can't, agency request was for unclassified, governor's request was for classified, and then the legislature approved the governor's request for the classified. So we have to go through a little bit longer recruitment process for that than I was hoping, but for the couple hours it was posted on the unclassified position, we had like 4 people apply. So we anticipate interest in that position when it does get posted. We'll work on we got one-shot money for computer replacements, which we'll work on. And then we'll work this year. This next fiscal year becomes the base building for the next budget. So we'll want to make sure to expend our resources strategically during this base building year. We're at a 0% vacancy rate, which is great. And then in terms of upcoming meetings, October 18th, we have Las Vegas. November 15th, we had scheduled, and because the Blondheim matter is resolved, there was some discussion at the last one about whether we want to move the November meeting up a week. And so I just want to check with the commission. Do we want to do November 8th or 15th for the trip to Torrance?
Let's move it up.
The if because the briefing schedule, but Blondheim is now resolved, so we're good on that. And then January 17th, we'll have a potential motion hearing. That meeting will be in Reno. And then we're targeting March 20th for Las Vegas as a potential adjudicatory hearing. We have a lot of complaints that are coming in, but not a lot of them have facts that would lend itself to investigating. And so I think you'll see sort of a lull in review panel activity and a need for cases before the commission in the next 6 months or so, just based on the way our timeframes work. We are working with our investigation team to come up with a proactive enforcement program that some other commissions have in terms of finding items out there that may be worthy of going forward on motions. So we'll keep you updated on that. So that is it for my agency report. I will note again, I just want to thank Executive Assistant Pedroza for helping to onboard the new commissioners. That's a much more complicated process than I would have ever thought to bring on a new commissioner to get them so they can get reimbursed for their meetings and their travel and all that. And she's helping walk us through that process, which has been helpful. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the agency status.
So our new position, that person can work from anywhere? Is that the plan?
It'll be an outstationed position available to work from anywhere. I want to hire the best person that applies for the position, but I think I have a somewhat of a thought that it would be most advantageous for the needs of the agency if that person happens to be in Clark County, because that's where all the people are that need to be trained. So we'll see what comes in, but that would be an outstation position, flexible to roam the countryside and train public officials.
Yeah, and I think it's good to, in this day and time, to offer some flexibility to people because, and then expanding it out, we're not limited to just this geographic area.
Yeah, that's the.
Which I agree with and stuff. And then since they made that new position a classified position, I know that we've talked before about making the executive assistant and everybody else except for you and associate counsel and commission counsel, make them all classified just because like the executive director's position is more of an ASO position. So to, get them some better pay.
We can take a look at that. One of the challenge, well, as I'm going through what does it mean for us to have a classified is when we have the positions that are unclassified, typically we bring everybody in at the top. Because it's unclassified and you can, and it's budgeted that way. When they budget for classified positions, they budget at a step 5. And so when we bring on our education and outreach officer, the only way we can offer them above a step 5 is if we prove we have other savings to cover the cost of that increase. So I think I can definitely put together and work with some HR folks on the pluses and minuses if we want to take a look at classifying the other staff folks. In the past, it's been advantageous because if you remember 2 sessions ago, classified staff got a 3% increase and unclassified staff just got the 1, but then it was made up the session. So we can definitely take a look at it.
Just to kind of look and see.
Yeah.
It's worth looking into and stuff. So I think that's good. And that's it for my questions that I have here. And it's great that we finally have 0% vacancy. It's been a long couple of years. Or it seems like 2 years, but maybe it's only been a year and a half, but it's been a while. Any other comments from my commissioners? Okay. All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the executive director's agency status report as presented.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
All
I'll
right,
second it.
okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Right, next item, item 11, appointment of members to the Personnel Subcommittee of the Nevada Commission on Ethics. The Personnel Subcommittee, it used to be myself, Commissioner Dufferin, and Commissioner Oscarson. And the reason why we want to go and appoint another one right now is because we need to go and update the work performance standards and priorities for our commission council and our executive director. And we want to do that by the end of October. And so that's why I would like to appoint a new personnel subcommittee. So I will entertain a motion to appoint 3 commissioners to serve on the personnel subcommittee today. I'll speak at once. So,
Nominate myself.
well, I mean, I would like to be on it. I think my vice chair should be on it. And
Madam
I think
Chair, let me,
Commissioner Dufferin.
before you say my name, because I think you were going to, would it be more appropriate, so you don't have to do this again in the future, since my term ends at the end of October, to appoint yourself, the vice chair, and maybe a third individual that will be around through the
I don't-
fiscal year?
I don't think it is hard to appoint somebody else when you're not here, just for the simple reason that it would be harder bringing somebody in who has not gone through this process that you went through when we did it for the previous commission councils and stuff, so.
Sure, Commissioner Greenwald, you're not interested in that?
You're really trying to retire, aren't you? Your brain's gonna get fuzzy.
It's
if you
already
do that,
fuzzy.
so
It's
I'll
gray and
entertain a
fuzzy.
motion for that. For those 3 commissioners. Okay, can I do so? All right, I'll make a motion that the personnel subcommittee consists of Chair Wallen, Vice Chair Towler, and Commissioner Dufferin. Is there a second for that?
I second that motion.
Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, next item, commissioner comments. I would like to ask the commissioners if they have any comments. Of course,
Of course I do, Madam
yes,
Chair.
of course you do, Commissioner Dufferin.
I'll make them brief. I was not at our last meeting when Commissioner Olson was welcomed, and I wanted to take this opportunity to welcome Commissioner Olson to the commission. Never saw you or met you until right now, so welcome and thank you for participating. Thank you for wanting to be a commissioner. And then the other comment I have is I wanted to thank Lynette St. Jules, our Deputy Attorney General, who has helped me out since she's been here quite a bit. And I really appreciate all the work that she's put in. She's doing another job besides counseling us. I know perhaps this could be her last meeting, and I wanted to make sure that we have it on the record that at least I'm thanking her, because I really do. I will miss you, and I appreciate all the work that you've done. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Other comments, Commissioner Lowry?
I would echo those comments for Mr. Klump and Ms. St. Jules. Thank you so much. I've found your hard work and your written documents to be so timely and well-researched and thoughtful. You really do anticipate any questions that I have. Your work is just exemplary. So thank you so much for your assistance to the commission. I have an observation and kind of a question, and I don't know the answer yet. And it has to do with the issue of commission decisions as precedent to determine new cases. And we saw an example of it today. And I don't know if the answer is to have the new commission council maybe do an exhaustive brief for the commission, because it seems to me kind of what I've heard is either every prior decision we've made, if the charges are the same and the facts are remotely similar, then they're precedent, or we need to handle our cases on a case-by-case basis, independently of prior cases. And the reason I say that is, for example, we had the Blondheim negotiation today. And there were a lot of nuances in why that case was negotiated the way it was. And if someone in the future went out and did the exact same thing and we looked at that case and we didn't do a deferral agreement because, oh, in the Blondheim case, we gave a deferral agreement and these were the facts. But when any litigator negotiates a case, there are so many nuances that they are determining in terms of proof at trial, proof at adjudicatory hearing that aren't going to come into play. And so as I sit here today, it really makes me wonder, for our purposes, is nothing precedent and everything is a case-by-case basis? Or are we required to utilize our own precedent to make decisions? And I'd really like to have a comprehensive brief, so to speak, on that very issue. And maybe that's the first assignment for our new commission council. So anyway, that's just kind of my comment and observation.
We'll note that, and as the personnel subcommittee sets the priorities for the commission council, that can be those priorities.
And Mr. Executive Director, does that observation make sense?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you, Ms. Bassett. Thank you. Okay,
I say, I think it makes a lot of sense.
okay.
Yeah, and I think just my observation since coming on board, one of the challenges is because the agreement rate is so high that you, as a commission, there's not a lot of cases out there that were decided at an adjudicatory hearing. And so, although it was very long and very intense, so the last adjudicatory hearing we had was helpful for the associate counsel and I, because it's challenging to know how to go forward on a case. What is a fair offer to make? What is likely to happen if it goes to an adjudicatory hearing? When those are so rare. Because I think it has been at least 4 years since the last one. And so I think that's that may be something too that the associate counsel and I look at in terms of cases and say, no, this is an issue where we need the commission to have a full-blown hearing and make some calls. Because that helps guide us in that day-to-day work. And so I think that is in alignment with your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, having said all that, every case that I've been involved in normally has some other prior case referenced that has similar issues. And we have 8 different individuals that are looking at these issues. They may, as far as precedent goes, there's precedent on how prior cases have been done, but I think in my opinion, every case is absolutely individual, stands on its own. Sometimes there are similarities, sometimes we do have to look at the similarities and the differences. And I know that's difficult for staff to kind of figure out, well, how are we going to process this case? But in reality, even if that exercise was done by the new council, I still think you're going to be in the same spot today, which is every case stands on its own, and you use the prior cases as a guide to get to the decision that you need to make.
I will say, my perspective, and it was the same really back in olden times, but I was a baby prosecutor, is there's kind of a bifurcated decision. Does this conduct violate the law? Yes or no? And I think that's helpful to look at prior cases for sure. When you think about what is the most responsive, effective, appropriate response to this individual who did this conduct, is where it really you get the nuances we saw in some of the cases today. And so that's at least my perspective. And when I work with Ms. Bassett is, does this conduct fit in the law? Yes, it does. Okay, now, based on all those other factors and the factors we get out of the law too, what is the best response? It's kind of a two-pronged question.
But you'll have 8 individuals
Yeah.
saying, I interpret the law this way. And they're all, they could, to try to get to a consensus is always going to be a challenge. Because we all have different backgrounds, and that's why there are 8 different commissioners.
Exactly.
So good luck.
Good though.
Wait, right. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to say, Jen, thank you, Luana. Thank you for your communication skills. You have good communication skills. You can talk to a commissioner, like you can talk to me and it says saying, Barbara, you really screwed up and no, it's not that way. You're very kind and very, you can go step by step and show me where the error of my ways was. And so I appreciate your communication skills.
It's been wonderful to work with all of you, really.
And Commissioner Greenwell, I can't imagine her correcting your errors. You're too good, you know? You're too good.
I don't actually recall an example of ever having to disagree with you.
But yeah, I too want to echo the comments of my fellow commissioners. I've really appreciated working with Conflict Council Club. We got thrown into a hard case, but you kept us going and helped us a lot. I appreciate it. And Deputy Attorney General St. Jules, it's just been a real pleasure working with you. We'll keep in touch with you, definitely, And so with that, I will go and ask the Executive Director if the commission has received any public comment by email to be read into the record.
The commission has not received any public comment during this meeting to be read into the record. There no public remaining in the room or on the Zoom.
Okay, all right. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, thank you, everybody.
My also.
Oh, our long-
It's fine.
That's a lot.